Does international cyber conflicts impact smaller businesses, for example?
I'll come on this answer if that's okay, because this is something I like to talk about. So geopolitical has a massive impact on cyber for small businesses, on all businesses within the UK. A lot of people don't realise conflict in Ukraine, conflict with Israel and Iran at the moment does affect cyber, because warfare has changed. It's not just bombs and bullets now. It's computers and drones. It spreads elsewhere. And small businesses, unfortunately, come foul of that. That's a massive risk.
This is the Secure Cyber Connect podcast with Jay Adamson and Warren Atkinson, where we're joined by information, cybersecurity, technology and talent acquisition professionals to share their journeys, unique perspectives and offer advice and guidance. Our topic on this episode will be cybersecurity and what small businesses fear. Today we're delighted to be joined by Christopher Eastwood and Alistair Kennedy. Alistair is a dedicated cybersecurity advocate and has left an indelible mark on the digital landscape with a career that began within the police force, where he spent 21 years, the latter as part of the cybercrime investigation team as a prevention and protection officer, where he worked closely with businesses enhancing their cybersecurity defences. His commitment extended beyond corporate security, as he has dedicated time to educating young people about the consequences of cyber crime. His personal experiences resonated within the neurodiverse challenges faced by these youths, and has ensured that they've received the right support whilst navigating the complexities of the digital world. He co-founded the Rybec Group with a mission to provide comprehensive cybersecurity advice to the business. They assist organisations implementing crucial measures such as Cyber Essentials, ISO 27001 certifications. And his renewed passion lies in empowering both young people and adults within the tech industry. His journey from curious computer enthusiast to cyber defender and educator is very much a testament to his resilience, adaptability, and a commitment to securing our digital future. Chris is the co-founder of the Rybec Group, a company that really also, alongside ISO 27001, deals with Cyber Essentials implementation, GDPR compliance, cybersecurity awareness training, very much adept at analysing complex cyber threats and developing robust security strategies. They deliver comprehensive solutions to protect organisations from cyber risks and are highly skilled in collaborating with a wide range of diverse stakeholders to create that secure digital environment. As a former regional cybercrime unit police officer, Chris also has a strong track record in investigating and combating cybercrimes such as fraud, hacking, identity theft, and data breaches, and is committed to diverting criminals away from a life of crime. He's also worked with the National Crime Agency and the West Yorkshire Police, North and South Yorkshire Police, and Humberside Police, and has previously served in the Royal Engineers as a Class 1 combat engineer. Alistair, Chris, welcome to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jay.
So we kick things off with a bit of a usual icebreakers, really. I think first things first, we just want a very brief, high-level overview of some of the key themes that we'll be exploring in our discussion.
Yeah, we're going to talk about small businesses, cybersecurity, cybercrime, and the various different factors that prevent small businesses engaging with cybersecurity and why they think it doesn't affect them.
And to go into maybe Chris first and then Alistair second, could you both describe a significant challenge that you've faced in your careers that's maybe shaped your views on cyber?
Over the years, many different challenges in cybersecurity. Information security. I think the most recent is people just don't take it seriously, or see something that the cybersecurity is just something that they need to have. It's just an expense. So it's trying to change people's mindsets more than anything. So instead of just being an expense, it needs to be a business enabler. That is the key thing we've really seen. It's just trying to convince people to see it that way, because people do see it as just a hidden expense, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm going to bounce on the back of what Chris has just said. Apathy amongst small businesses around cybersecurity. They don't think it's going to happen to them. They see it as an expense they don't need to pay out. This happens only to big companies, not to us. And that apathy, I think, has really surprised me, actually, how widespread it is within businesses. And I get financial constraints and what drives that apathy in some respects, because I'm a small business owner myself. So I kind of get that. But I also see the other side of it, the dangers that are involved in it. So I think that's the biggest surprise I think I've seen in the industry.
Appreciate you sharing.
It's definitely hit that holiday insurance mantra with a lot of companies. But I think one good thing that's maybe come out of this recent spate of attacks within some of the more high profile retailers is it's probably put it back front and center into everybody's mindset. So
It has, but the apathy is still there. Again, they still see M&S, the Co-op, as the big companies that, oh, it's happened to them. It's never going to happen to us, the smaller retailer. But there's been a lot of kick-off into the smaller companies from these tags with M&S and the Co-op. And people don't see that because you don't see it on the news, do you?
And we're certainly going to get into that, I think, a bit more further into the episode. I think just following on from that, could you both maybe share a mistake that you've made in your career and what lessons you learned from it? Maybe Alistair first and Chris second this time.
Becoming a business owner, we had a lot of lessons to learn from coming from law enforcement and police officers. And I think the biggest mistake we made in the business, maybe not in a cybery sense, but was not taking the advice on board from peers. Not having your documentation, your legal documentation in place for your business, and thinking, oh, we'll just put it back a couple of weeks, we'll just put it back a month, we'll just do this. And we were stung quite badly with that. So if I ever speak to a new business now, I say to them, get your ducks in a row, make sure everything's spot on. And when somebody says to you, you need to do that, do it. Don't just keep putting it back. It's a bit like cybersecurity. People put it on the back burner. But legal documentation for your business, because again, that's going to protect your business. So that, for me, was the biggest mistake I think I've made recently within Rybeck.
I think personally, though, just going on to what you just said, Alistair, we started Rybeck quite quickly. We both retired from the police. We had zero business experience. So we're super keen to get Rybeck up and running, to help businesses, look into education for schools. So you sometimes rush into things out of passion for the job you're doing. And sometimes, what I was just mentioning there, not having things in place. Sometimes you need to be a little bit spontaneous with things and get involved, don't you? But then sometimes you look back and think, well, maybe we did rush into things really quick, too soon. We were quite lucky because we had a good supportive network around us as well. So we had Barker's Eagle Labs, Plexel, a few names dropping there, but they really helped us get the foundations in place, which we should have done right from the beginning. But I think out of enthusiasm, we just jumped straight into it with no experience of running a business at all in the past. I think a lot of people need to tap into the network out there, and also if anybody's offering you advice, and as long as it's the right advice, just tap into it if you can.
No, I appreciate you sharing, and don't be afraid to ask sometimes as well, I guess, is for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your journeys in transferring from police cybercrime. It's a significant but quite well-trodden path that many professionals have taken successfully. Did you feel you were evolving your careers by doing this? Did it just seem like a natural progression?
Yes, it seemed like a natural progression because we were still doing, on the face of it, we were still doing the job we did in the police, if that makes sense. We were still going out there, we were still giving cybersecurity advice, we were still giving training to people around what the risks in cybersecurity are. We were still helping people get certifications, which we used to do in the police. So that transition on the actual work itself was almost seamless, if I'm honest, and just seemed a natural progression. And it felt really natural. And we were really passionate about it. We still are really passionate about it. The other bit of it which we didn't expect was the business side of it, the business management side of it. I think we drove through with our passion about helping people, and that kind of caused us to maybe ignore some of the business stuff where we maybe needed to pick that up more. But it was a natural transition. I would like to say it was an easy transition. It was, but it wasn't. There was a few challenges along the way. Because when you come out of the police, you're no longer a police officer. People see you in a different light. You're a private industry. You're looked on a bit different, and that's got its pros and cons because some people don't like talking to you because you were a police officer, but now you're not a police officer. They're willing to talk to you. So it was a double-edged sword really for us. Chris, do you Anything else to add to that?
Just piggybacking what you just said there, really. We went out and doing a lot of education visits, schools, stand up in front of classes, giving cyber awareness training sessions, small businesses. So that transition was quite easy, really. Myself and Alistair went out to numerous schools and businesses to give education talks. So that bit transitioned really easily. It's just actually running it as a business. That's the difference. That's the kicker, really. So actually having the business mindset and also the police, well, the sort of skills were picked up from the police as well.
And Chris, from your perspective, are there any benefits for individuals that are working in the private sector at the moment that are perhaps considering a career change into the public sector domain?
If you're a police officer or any sort of working in any of the police forces, military, army, anything like that, you've got a lot of skills that can transition over. That's why we're really keen. We're part of the Armed Forces Covenant. We've got the Bronze Covenant. We're part of a lot of the military tech groups because they've got a lot of transferable skills. And we see that quite often. Quite a lot of the big auditing companies are taking on ex-military. A lot of them are ex-Royal Signals, Royal Air Force, Royal Navy, because they're super skilled. They're used to working through processes. They're used to quite a regimented sort of structure to the life. And it just transitions over so well. So sometimes you have potential auditors that are not super qualified, but they have the skills that can transition over.
Was there a particular point that motivated you both, where you thought this is the time to do it? Was there anything that actually happened that kind of where you thought, right, this is when we make this transition?
So yeah, we both retired from the police nearly 3 years ago now, quite early. I'm part deaf. Alistair had significant damage to his hands, so we couldn't be police officers any much longer. So we were forced into sort of either doing nothing and just sitting at home with his pensions, or looking at how we can help companies, and also the education side of Rybeck as well, which we like to go out and do staff awareness training and also education for school. So I retired for about 8 hours, and I got a phone call off Alistair, would you like to come and help with a staff awareness training for a school in Scunthorpe? It's like, okay, that was really quick. That was 8 hours since I retired. So we did sort of jump into it, but it was taken out of our hands by being pensioned off from the police. So I thought we both thought the same way. We need to do something because we've got that much experience. We've enjoyed the jobs we were doing in the police. We need to continue it across to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I could just come in a little bit there just to clarify, just before, just let's step back, just what Chris was talking about. I think COVID happened, and policing and cybercrime units changed very much. And it got to the point where cybercrime officers, I definitely was stopped from doing my job, going out and helping people. And I was injured, so I was already what was deemed as an injured officer. So, and Chris was in a similar situation. And I spoke to Chris, because obviously we worked quite closely together. And I said, what are we going to do? Because we can't carry on like this. This is just ludicrous. Because Chris was having the same pressures I was having. And we decided that we were going to, we needed to do something. And I think that's where we both have said, let's just see if we can ask for ill health retirement for the two of us. And that was really the first sign. But I think COVID did a lot of damage to a lot of different things, if I'm honest. And I don't think the cybercrime teams have ever really got back to where they were pre-COVID. I know there was a lot of work being done pre-COVID, and it all just stopped during the COVID situation. But they definitely, if we're talking about a catalyst that caused us to come out, it was COVID.
We had a lot of momentum before COVID. We went out to a lot of schools. We were involved in quite a large cybersecurity platform and training platform for schools and education. There was a big piece being done on cybersecurity for schools and also the prevent strategy for cyber, not the prevent strategy for counterterrorism. But, so there's a lot of work being done at the time, and unfortunately, COVID kicked in, and it sort of unfortunately lost its momentum, didn't it, quite a bit. I think they are slowly coming back around to it again, but it's just taken a long time to sort of get the momentum back now.
But it's really interesting when you look at young people, that similar effects had with young people as well. which I'm no doubt we'll get into further down this podcast.
No, we appreciate you sharing, guys. Thank you. And Chris, listen, 8 hours off it's a long time in the cybersecurity sector. So well done on that sabbatical. So I think in terms of kind of maybe just finishing off on this topic, was there any other cultural shifts that you found maybe give you some concerns from law enforcement into the private sector?
Yes. Yeah, there was. A very big cultural shift for us came around people answering you, if that makes sense. So I'll give an example. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. If I was in the police and I sent an email, people would respond to me straight away. I always got a response back. I've gone into private industry, people don't reply to you for a week. And I really, really struggled with that. I was like, why are they not answering me? I've had 20 years of people answering me pretty much straight away. Why are they not answering me? And even now, I'm 3 years down the line, I'm still like, why have you not answered me? Well, it's just rude, they've not answered me. But that's a whole different way of working in private industry to what it is in government. And that still, sometimes I still get struggle with my head to get around that. And some way companies work is really difficult for me at times. I'm like, well, that's a bit strange, but okay. So that was a culture shock for me. The speed, how things didn't happen instantly, I think was massive. And still now, I still think to myself, wow, this just takes ages. What do you, Ethan, you can think, Chris?
I just think it's a pace of life, isn't it? We've seen quite a few customers. We've gone out and quote them for jobs and bits and pieces of work, and it's gone really quiet for 2, 3, 4 months. It's like, okay, I'll just drop them an email, and then suddenly it all starts back up again. It's like, oh wow! I just think it's adjusting to the pace of life, really. I think in the place where you're blue lighting, going out to all the calls, doing all the bits and pieces, it's all really fast paced. Unfortunately, business is not always like that anymore. You've got to. A lot of contracts need to go to key decision makers, and it can take quite some time. We have adjusted to that now. It just take a bit of a shift, but you do get used to it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing. And listen, someone that's come from a recruitment and search background, we're more than used to being ignored. I think some days I feel like Roger Moore, the man who haunted himself on the phones. But hey ho, thank you for sharing, guys. Really, really interesting to hear your journeys on that side of things. So I think one of the things that Warren and I are very passionate about, and I think we've talked quite a lot about, but I think it's particularly resonant with regards to what you guys are doing, and certainly is obviously kids and schools. We've talked a lot about teaching kids cybersecurity, and Warren and I have been talking about introducing this into the syllabus, building a culture of defense into schools and children from a very early age. So just talking about it in a slightly more granular level, what sort of more AI-driven cyber threats do you think are more focused now in terms of targeting schools and children?
I'll go on this one. Wow, AI threats in schools. AI is a huge problem for young people on numerous different levels. And I could sit here and talk to you an hour on AI in schools and education alone. I'm going to try and keep it as brief as I can. But I think the biggest threat is we're asking young children from a very young age now, even reception classes, children going to school, in some schools they'll get thrust a tablet, an electronic tablet, to do their phonics on now. And we just expect them to pick up technology and run with it. Now, AI is implemented on across everything now. It's hard to touch stuff that's not got AI some way embedded in it. But I think one of the biggest threats is deepfake for AI. One of the ones that worry me the most, having 4 kids myself, deepfake. Social media deepfake imagery, deepfake voice. You can take somebody's face and put it on anything nowadays. And that technology is advancing on a daily basis. Now, young children could get themselves into all sorts of trouble around that. And we see it already with young children getting used in pornography and all sorts of different things. And that really quite scares me. That's quite frightening for me. Or people pretending to be their parents, or things like that. And I just think it's almost, we're in a society now where technology is enabling criminals a lot of the time to get into very nefarious stuff. And I think that's a really dangerous precedent we're in at the moment. I think that's a big threat to us. But at the other end of that scale, we've got children using AI to answer exams, do essays for them. And that, for colleges and secondary schools, that's a real problem, to scan for AI on essays that are handed in or dissertations at university level. AI is a great thing, but it's also a bad thing if it's used in the wrong context. And that's, for me, young people, the biggest threat of AI is round about the deep fake, and the imagery stuff, and copying, doing exams, dissertations, etc., essays and things. That's a big threat, I think.
And Chris, obviously, in terms of sort of things like hands-on cyber awareness sessions and a lot of the things that you guys have obviously been involved in, how much difference do you think they make within local communities and within schools?
I think every school trust should have a program that involves parents and schools, so that parents know what the kids are doing. Because it's quite often that the kids can overtake the parents' knowledge. I think they need to have a program in place where on an evening they talk about the threats to young people, what they need to look out for, and just work together. Because a lot of parents let kids go into the rooms, to the computer, laptops, games consoles, and they're there for hours on end. Don't talk to the kids. They don't always realise what they're doing, unfortunately. So they are susceptible to online grooming, for the cyber side of it. And that's what we saw in the police quite often. We saw young people being groomed online to commit cyber offences. So there needs to be something in place for young people and the parents to be involved. Instead of workshops at schools are great for young people, but there needs to be something between them. That's what I think personally. That's something I'd like to see in the future, just so that parents can be the early warning, so they can see the early warning signs of what the kids are up to, really.
Education is clearly key, without a doubt.
Yeah. And we try to do that at the moment, Jay, Warren. So I'll give you an example. We were in school 2 weeks ago, and I did school assembly for the children, talking about the threats out there. And we had all the parents sat around the outside. So we were engaging with the parents as well as the young people in the assembly, because parents are key to this, keeping young people safe. Parents have no idea what technology is advancing. It's advancing so fast. Who would have thought 20 years ago we'd have mobile phones that could do what they can do now? Technology is advancing that fast. Parents are struggling to keep up, and they need help. And some of the best environment for that school environment, because you can get them in with the children.
Plus, in the past few years as well, some of the offenders we used to work with just be script kiddies, so they'd be putting lines of code into a script. AI has unfortunately advanced that quite quickly, so they don't have to scrabble around finding lines of code. They can go onto an AI platform and just create it straight away. So things are advancing really quickly, and that's just been over the past few years. You can see a massive change, unfortunately, and there needs to be a big piece on education about all of it.
So small businesses are the easiest targets for hackers, and most business owners don't even realise this. So Chris, curious to gain your perspective and insights into this a bit further. Which cyber risks do small businesses and medium businesses overlook?
Yeah, I think a lot of small businesses, they don't always see the insider threat quite often. They work with people, they have quite a close network, but they work with people and don't always see the insider threat, and don't keep an eye on, they don't deliver staff awareness training to people in their organisation, and that sort of is exploited, unfortunately. So you can have people clicking on phishing emails, taking calls, and they're just really successful to it all. So unfortunately, that's still the key threat for small businesses.
And from your perspective, Alistair, are you seeing much similar, or are there any other areas perhaps?
Definitely what Chris has said, 100%. But I think what a small business, we talked about it earlier, the passion. You're a small business owner, you're passionate to do your business, you're passionate. And sometimes you forget to secure the devices you're using. So you'll use shared passwords just because it's easier so you can get the business done. And I sometimes think small businesses to medium businesses have a lot of passion about what they're doing in the business, but forget to look after the other bits that make that possible. I see it all the time where people are sharing passwords in offices because it's easier to get on the system. Um, they won't have things switched on. They won't have antivirus switched on the machine because it's annoying. They won't update their machines. And I think it's really simple things of digital hygiene that small businesses fall down on because they're too focused on building the business, like we all are. We want to build our businesses. We want to be the best. And I think people, when they're busy and passionate about what the focus is, they forget about the other stuff. We see that quite a lot.
And Chris, why do you think small business owners, for example, wait until cyber attacks happen before they take action?
I think quite a lot of small businesses are put off by cyber. They hear cyber and they think it's going to cost me a fortune. It's going to cost me a lot of money that I can't really afford to spend. Instead of looking at doing the really basics well, so if you're paying for a Microsoft license or anything like that, just use what you've got in place already. You don't have to pay an absolute fortune to have a good level of protection in place. I just think that using the word cyber puts people off quite often. They just see it as going back to original comments, they see it as a cost that they don't need to be spending. They don't see it as a business enabler, unfortunately.
If I come in there as well, I think the industry's been kind of tainted a little bit by some of the bigger companies who have charged very exuberant expense for cybersecurity, where it doesn't need to be that expensive. Cost of cybersecurity has come down in recent years, and a lot of small businesses just see it as something. It's a non-tangible asset, if that makes sense. It's one of these things you pay for, like insurance. You don't see the benefit until the wheels falling off. And cybersecurity is a bit like that. And I think that's why small businesses prioritise cash flow into what they can see and growing the business. And I fully get that. I fully understand that. But they wouldn't do it without a health and safety policy or a HR policy. And they need to understand that cybersecurity or data security, as we like to say, is as important as having HR or health and safety policy.
That's a really important point, and I think we need to take away lessons from other industries, manufacturing, for instance, where health and safety and security is at the highest level. But I think we're certainly maturing as a society in that respect. And Chris, what warning signs can SMEs spot that indicate they're actually being targeted by threat actors?
I think quite often you'll SMEs get targeted. They'll look at the weak links. They'll receive numerous phishing emails. Probably really increased the amount of emails that have been sent to them. We've seen that ourselves when we first started up. We were receiving lots and lots of emails through, all phishing emails. They targeted our accounts lady. So instead of sending them to us, they sent them to us accounts lady. But luckily enough, every year we do a cyber awareness training session between us all. Even just a small company, we just go through it all, and just any changes, we just keep updated with them all. But they will try their very best to try and target the weakest link or accounts who they may see sometimes can be the weakest link. And they'll just try and target who they can find. They'll use a lot of social media to try and highlight people in organisations. So may look at interns, may look at accounts, bookkeepers, all the support networks will try and target them. That's what we've seen personally from our own experiences.
Yeah, I think how a small business would know it's getting targeted is seeing unusual traffic on their website. Web forms filled in with strange characters is a good one. So if you get a web form comes through from your website and it's just characters like asterisks or symbols, that's a good sign that somebody's just poking around and doing things. Again, an unprecedented amount of emails coming into your spam filter. Things like that might mean that you're on the radar for somewhere, or your email address or your domain's been linked into something. company to do regular checks on their domains to make sure their domain stays secure as well. But that's a really good warning indicator, is unusual activity on your website and unusual activity within your email system is a really good indicator. And obviously devices running slow if you start to get DDoS attacks.
And we know that threat actors, when they are poking around in systems, they are deterred if they see defences, because they're looking for the easiest and quickest route in. And I see organisations, especially ones that have got the online presence, as a sort of a window dressing and a window shop. It's good to have that fire alarm in the corner, for instance. And I know certifications can help with that. But are there any other sort of mistakes from your perspective, Alistair, that organisations perhaps are making at this point and saying attack us?
Yeah, unfortunately, we see quite a lot of this. People just not putting password protection properly in place, or using common passwords like password 123. I thought this would have stopped by now, but we still go into new businesses, new clients, and we come across them still using really common passwords. And I think some businesses just don't think it's going to happen to them, as Chris said. So that's one of them. Supply chain's another one. Understand your supply chain and what the risks are. And that is going to happen to you. And just updating your software, for example. Update your hardware. Update things when it needs updating. I've gone into companies where their been operating systems have been out of date by nearly 3 years and still functioning, funnily enough, but they have been well out of date. And you think, well, how? Why can't you just click update when it comes and tells you to update it? They don't want to restart it. They don't want to take time out of their day. But that's lack of knowledge. And I think that's where small businesses fall down.
I appreciate you sharing. And Chris, what's one big mistake that UK businesses make that cyber criminals are exploiting today?
A lot of businesses think it's not going to happen to me. It's really not going to happen to me. I'm only a small company. Why would they target me? They often don't look at the supply chains they're part of. So if you're a small business and you're into quite a large supply chain, they're going to target the weakest link, who they think is going to be the weakest link. Quite often, well, I know things have changed recently. Quite a few big companies have been targeted, but they generally look at smaller companies and think, well, their security is not always going to be 100%. We'll target those. We saw that in the young people that we used to work with. They used to target school networks to start with, and they used to then any skills they learn, they transfer that over to small businesses to try and target small businesses.
Yeah, we certainly see that across CNI, for instance, when they've got those legacy systems and they haven't got the man or the woman power and the knowledge internally to look into these systems, and they don't want to pull the plug just in case it's mission critical. Now, look, we have conversations with different businesses that are chasing different certifications, some because of regulatory requirements, some because of contractual requirements, for instance. But we certainly have seen a trend of overkill. So I'm curious to get your perspective, Chris. Which certifications generally help small businesses and which are just tick box exercises, for instance?
That's followed nicely from our last question there, really. Because Cyber Essentials, just a simple Cyber Essentials in place, well, it's not always simple, some companies really struggle with it, but having Cyber Essentials in place, if you use Cyber Essentials like you would an MOT every year, checking up your systems, getting the basics in place, it really does help. People say, some people have said, it's just a tick box exercise, but if you use it as a framework to improve your business, getting all the basics in place, I just don't think you can go far wrong with it. And also with the Cyber Essentials Plus, that gives you supply chain confidence that you're looking at cybersecurity in your business. It doesn't have to cost an absolute fortune, but Cyber Essentials is a good starting point, I think, personally. And it just sometimes people don't see it that way. They think it's a ticky box exercise when it's really not. When you work with a certification body like ourselves, we'll talk you through it and help you actually improve your business using it. And it's not super expensive to get in place as well.
Well, certification is only as good as the attitude of the business, isn't it? You can have all the ISO certificates, the Cyber Essentials certificates in the world, but if you don't operate to what you've said you do on the paper, it's a complete waste of time. And we've seen this firsthand, that some companies will go out there to get Cyber Essentials or struggle to get Cyber Essentials. They'll get it, then the day after they've obtained the certificate, they'll switch everything off because it's too hard to maintain. And that's where it kind of wastes, it kind of spoils it for the rest of everybody who's trying to work really hard to get cyber essentials. So that's where it falls down. If you're going to do certification, you've got to be true to it and honest with it. If you're going to be just use it as a badge of honour, there's no point in doing it. It's just a complete waste of time.
No, I appreciate that. And Chris, what's the best way for businesses to navigate the confusing certification landscape? Because appreciate you're outside of Cyber Essentials, there's many other acronyms and there's other certifications.
I just think companies just overloaded with different certifications, all these accreditations that you can look at. Just get some advice. Speak to a cybersecurity training company like ourselves. We're a Cyber Essential certification body, and we also help companies implement ISO 27001. Just reach out. People on LinkedIn, the network's that big on LinkedIn now. You can just reach out, ask a question, and just get some guidance. Because sometimes you may think you need all these different certifications, you really don't. But just get some advice instead of going out there and spending an absolute fortune on something you may not need. Just get advice.
And Alistair, what do you say to individuals that are hesitant to reach out and ask for advice that probably, unrealistically feel that they're showing weakness if they feel that they're asking silly questions, for instance?
There's never a silly question, is there? No question is a silly question. I would rather people come to me and ask me a really simple question, so I can at least tell them the honest truth. I think the industry's got a bit of stigma around it, and we need to get rid of that. People need to be open and honest and be willing to talk, because that's how we're going to solve some of the problems that we have in the industry and make people more secure. We need to talk about what we don't know. Because if we don't talk about it, nobody knows you don't know, and we can't do something about it. It's a big thing. So I'd much rather somebody come to me and talk to me. And if somebody doesn't answer you, well, there's plenty of other people that will answer you. I always have. If somebody asks me a question, I'll always give them an answer. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find it out for them. And never be afraid of asking the question.
Absolutely. And looking at things from a slightly more geopolitical perspective, clearly this week included that tensions have never been higher, and pretty much it feels like that since the turn of the century, maybe even since cyber was even in the conversation. We know the risks to critical national infrastructure. We know, we've talked about the larger corporations such as Marks and Spencer's, etc. But does international cyber conflicts impact smaller businesses, for example?
I'll come on this answer if that's okay, because this is something I like to talk about. So geopolitical has a massive impact on cyber for small businesses, on all businesses within the UK. A lot of people don't realise conflict in Ukraine, conflicts with Israel and Iran at the moment, does affect cyber. Because warfare has changed. It's not just bombs and bullets now. It's computers and drones. Technology is used as part of warfare and has been for a few years now. We just never saw it as much until the Ukrainian war. And we do see it happening in the UK. We have seen it happen. Before Ukraine was attacked, there was a massive cyber attack aimed at Ukraine by Russia, and a lot of it spilled off into Europe and into the UK. And we saw it in the UK manifest in a lot of schools that went down with ransomware attacks just prior to the invasion. So geopolitical, because they're using technology to develop new techniques of OT attacks and things like that. That doesn't just stay. It's very hard to contain when you're sending stuff over the web. It spreads elsewhere. And small businesses, unfortunately, come foul of that. But also part of that, criminal gangs have got involved in the war by taking sides, and they're skilling themselves up constantly. So it's like ratcheting themselves up in skill levels all the time. And we're going to see that when conflict stops, or these groups get bored, or people move away from these groups, are coming out with these skill sets that were used in a wartime footing, and they're going to turn it against industry. And that with small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses. So that's a massive risk. People think it's not going to affect them. Supply chains. You might be 20 steps down the supply chain, but if the end of that supply chain is a military contractor you then become a legitimate legitimate target, don't you, for cyber criminal or cyber hacktivist or whoever's doing the hacking. So it's a very interesting landscape, but it has a massive impact.
And Chris, do you have any sort of take on maybe if there are any practical steps that maybe these smaller businesses can take? I think you touched on supply chain, maybe from the global cyber threats.
I think small businesses just need to keep aware of what's actually going on. So threat intelligence is a big one. When you say threat intelligence, companies think, oh, that's going to cost me a fortune to have some of the big platforms in place, but it doesn't really need to be. You can go on the NCSC website and get quite a lot of threat intelligence from the NCSC. So just tap into the networks out there and just keep up to date with it all. So the work that you're doing, you may think, I'm not involved in anything serious, but look at your supply chain and think, okay, I may supply products to a different country. Just be aware of what's going on and just keep up to date with threat intelligence. I think that really will help.
Anything you want to add to that, Alistair, at all?
No, I think just be aware, awareness of your supply chain, who you're supplying, where it's going to, and who the end product is, really. Again, supply chains are going to be the vulnerable link all the time. If we look back on all the recent cyber attacks, even the big one recently with M&S, supply chain hacks, which has caused it all. So it's come down through the supply chain. This is where cyber criminals look for the weakest point all the time. So just be aware of your supply chain.
Absolutely. No, thanks, guys.
And we often hear that employees can be the strongest shield as well as the weakest link, but more often than not, we're seeing businesses get this dead wrong. So, Chris, why is employee training most effective defence against cyber attacks?
Employee training is brilliant as long as it's up to date and it's also relevant as well to your business. We've seen lots and lots of ticky box online training sessions that are never any use to anyone, really. It just needs to be super relevant to the business. Anything you do online training wise, just look at what your business actually does. Because when we go out and deliver staff awareness training, we make it bespoke to the company, because it's all well and good having a generic training package that we just deliver to every company, but every company is different. Every company has its own different needs and expectations as well. They have different levels of staff awareness. So some companies have super aware staff who are working on products, and some companies have people who are not aware of any of the cyber incidents or some of the issues. So just also having a bespoke training package, but also catering to tailoring it to your audience as well. So when you talk about cyber awareness training, some companies go, oh my word, cyber awareness training, I'm going to be sat at a computer ticking away for hours on end. Well, we've seen it all before in the past, haven't we? It just needs to be something that's engaging and makes people think, oh wow, I really enjoy that. It's a good use of my 2 hours session. That's what I think personally. I know some companies look at restraints and they don't want to spend a fortune on cyber awareness training, but again, you don't have to do. There's lots of stuff out there that you can use.
And Alistair, how can businesses create cyber awareness culture which perhaps isn't overwhelming to staff? I know Chris mentioned a few ways there, but are there any other ways that we can sort of influence the staff without them being overwhelmed?
Having an open culture and talking about cybersecurity openly, and not making reporting cyber incidents easy or concerns easy. I think it's really important that staff are the weakest link, or employees are the weakest link in a business. 90% of cyber attacks have come from a physical action with a computer, where somebody's clicked on a link or somebody's done something positive, a positive action they've done knowingly or unknowingly. So making a culture where if people make a mistake, they feel they're able to talk about it is really, really important. If you have clicked on a link and think to yourself, oops, I shouldn't have done that, they need to be able to tell somebody about it and not fear repercussion or telling off for it. It's really important to have that open culture, because that will encourage cybersecurity within the business and show that you care about your staff and you want to keep them secure, and then do some training with them to explain to why they need to do that, not punish them for it.
I appreciate you sharing. And Chris, are there any quick changes that can reduce human error for cybersecurity teams, for instance, overnight?
Any quick changes? Look at accessibility in the workplace, which is a big thing, really. There's lots and lots of bits and pieces you can do for accessibility. Some people may just need a little bit extra time with the training. Some people may need some adjustments, reasonable adjustments in the workplace. Anything you can do to make people's lives a lot easier in the workplace. Having that culture so people feel empowered as well. If they have any issues at work, they can report them. Not got to feel like, oh my word, I've made a mistake there. Just loads and loads of really easy wins. A lot of it's HR related, but it can be put into place so easily as an SME. We've used, because I'm part deaf, I've used Access to Work in the past for support from those. They've been absolutely fantastic, to be fair. Just look at what you can do for your employees. You can offer, it might not even come to that, you may just offer member staff a bit of extra help and go, oh, fantastic, you thought about me. And that's enough to cover it all. That's what I personally think.
And Alistair, you're reverting focus back to certifications. ISO 27001, for instance. How can that certification be both a benefit and potential hindrance for smaller organisations?
That's a really good question. So if we start with the pros of ISO 27001, we'll stick to ISO because it's one of the easier ones to talk about. So the pros of having ISO is obviously it's showing your clients that your cybersecurity is good. You're using a process, you've got an information management secure system, and you take it seriously because you paid some money to get ISO at the end of the day. It gives you processes to work by, and it gives you procedures, policies, and it gives a complete framework for a business to run securely by, taking cybersecurity into a high consideration, a high priority in the business. It opens new markets for a business. If you want to sell abroad, ISO 27001 is one standard that's recognised around the world rather than geographically. And it just helps you build your business. It's scalable. ISO 27001 is a scalable information management security system. It's scalable. So as your business grows, it grows with it. You don't have to go out and do anything specific differently. You just make sure the policy includes the correct number of staff on it. So that's the pros to it. The cons to it, it's expensive and it's time consuming. And that is where companies really struggle with it. To get ISO certification, you're talking a few £1,000s a year. By the time you get your certification audits done, your surveillance audits done, and you implement it, because that doesn't come cheap. But return on investment for ISO, if you're trying to sell into international markets or you're trying to sell into government markets, the return on investment does make it well worthwhile. So that's your pros and your cons. ISO certification is well worth it. It gets updated on a regular basis. We use it. I personally, as Rybeck, we're a really small company. There's only 4 of us. We're ISO 27001 and 9001. And it helps us run day to day because it gives us processes and a framework to work to. And it's really good if you go for government contracts because it's the first questions they ask you on the sheet.
I appreciate you sharing. And Chris, from your perspective, why isn't compliance alone enough to keep businesses secure?
Compliance, it needs to be an overview. You need compliance in place. You need to work to frameworks to keep everything in place. So it gives you a roadmap where you need to be. You also need other things put into place, such as your vulnerability management. You also need to have all the other technical controls in place. But having ISO 27001, you've got your 93 control measures. So having those in place, it gets you to look at the controls that you don't always need to have all the controls in place, but it actually gets you to consider your technical vulnerabilities. Also, we're massive advocates for ISO 9001, which is quality management system. That helps you streamline your business processes. So you think, oh my, it's going to cost me a fortune. But streamlining your business process and realizing you're spending an absolute fortune for tools that you don't always need, you can actually save money. So having 27001 and 9001 in place, it does actually help you streamline your processes and save money. It is more of a business enabler to keep hinting on it all the time. If companies can see that, they think, well, you've got a good business case to put it in place.
And we often hear technology leaders sort of giving feedback that the teams have seen a lot of friction because of compliance and because of security teams. So, Alistair, how can businesses balance meeting regulatory standards whilst maintaining real security?
Look at what the business needs. A lot of companies, we talk about badge hunters, don't we? Look at what your company needs and what your company, where it wants to be. What is your roadmap? And look at what regulatory standards you need to comply to. There's no point in getting SOC 2 if you're not going to be selling into America, for example, because SOC 2 is only recognised in the US. Why would you do that? Look at what you need and focus it to where you need. Staff often push back on regulations because they think it means more work for them. And it's about that communication with staff to say, this isn't more work for you. We're keeping you more secure. This is your data as well as ours because, and if we keep a company secure, you've got a job. Making the bigger picture. But regulations change all the time, and it's hard to keep your company up to date with some of the regulation changes. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming years. I think regulations are going to keep changing. Cybersecurity is going to become a lot more stringent. And I think certain companies will be enforced to have cybersecurity compliance and certification.
And Chris, is there anything that you want to add to it on the compliance or regulatory standpoint? Any perhaps challenges to the norm?
It's unfortunate, compliance is sometimes a bit of an afterthought for some companies. You just need to look at it and think, well, okay, how can this help my business grow? How can putting this into place help my business grow? So if you're looking at scaling up, looking for government contracts or anything like that, having ISO in place is a massive undertaking, but it also shows that you're taking cybersecurity seriously. Also, 9001 shows you're taking quality management seriously. Even 14,000, which are your environmental standards, showing that you're taking environmental concerns seriously. So it may be a lot of work initially, but it's just going to pay dividends over if you want to grow and scale your business. That's what we always preached. People say, well, why do I need it as a small business? Because it helps your business grow. As you grow as a company, your management systems will grow as well. But it's like using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut sometimes, isn't it? So companies think, all right, I need this in place, I need that in place. They don't always think of what they need. So maybe Cyber Essentials is just a great starting point. So look at Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. It won't cost a fortune to put into place. Okay, that's this year. We're looking at that. Next year, the roadmap may say ISO. And just plan it out, structure it. So instead of rushing to get everything into place straight away and just have a roadmap, 2-3 year roadmap. That's all you need in place. We've had companies that have wanted to put ISO in place and said, well, it may be a year or two before we put it in place. Well, just start creating a roadmap. We can help you create a roadmap if you like that and have the strategy in place that you're going to put it in place. And that's just a key takeaway from it, really. Just don't rush and put it all into place at once and struggle. Take your time and just get it in place when you can, really, and have a roadmap.
No, I think to add to that as well, we've seen a lot of successful organisations that get the low-hanging fruit, get the quick wins, and then you've got that board buy-in once you've demonstrated sort of those small steps so that you can then look to perhaps pivot and achieve some of those broader and more wider reaching regulatory standards.
Well, as a bootstrap business, every penny we spent when we first started out, it was a case of, oh my word, we've got to justify our spends. So straight away, within 2 weeks, we had Cyber Essentials in place because it just demonstrates that you're taking cybersecurity seriously, even as the smallest of small businesses. So just myself and Alistair, we've got Cyber Essentials in place. We've kept that certification up for the past 3 years now. It's just something that we feel we need to have in place. And now we're a Cyber Essentials certification body 3 years in. And it's like, well, there was just myself and Alistair sat at a table in Dish in Manchester 3 years ago. And we just thought, no, we'll get the groundwork done. We'll get it in place. Then we went on to 9001, 27001 about a year and a half ago. It's just because we can see a company grow. And if that's all in place, the foundations are perfect, aren't they? That's what we see it as.
And let's talk a little bit more about Rybeck. Yeah, obviously, we've had some great advice and insight and some really interesting tips from you guys throughout the episode. But look, Why would partnering with Rybec Group be so important and such a game changer for SMEs? And following on from that, really, just talk a little bit more about Rybec and your journey and your purpose and your vision going forward. Maybe Alistair and then Chris?
Yeah, I can talk about Rybeck. So when we founded Rybeck, we've already mentioned earlier on in the podcast, we started with the education sector. We wanted to carry on into schools, training people, keep them secure, keep kids safe. I mean, when I retired in April. I think in May I was in the local college talking to students for half a day for free. I didn't charge for it. I just went in and talked to students about cybersecurity because it's something we're passionate about. And when we came to retire, and as Chris said, he was retired for a whole 8 hours before I dragged him into something else. We have that passion to try and help people. And when we set Rybeck up, it was all about, okay, we need to pay the mortgage, but we need to help people. We need to be honest and transparent with it. And that for us is really, really important, to have that transparency and honesty. So as Rybeck, we're a completely vendor agnostic company. We're not signed up to any vendors. We're not going to try and specifically sell you product. If I go to a client, I want to give that client the very best I can give them. And if that means me having to go around the markets to find what I can find for them from the whole range of vendors, I will do. For me, the clients are an important part, and we need to give them a high quality of service. And everything we do is transparent. There's no upselling. The aim is to try and help them cost effectively for them in the best way that we can. And that's what our passion drives us. We'll never come away from that because that's how we're built. We're here to help. And okay, we've got our mortgages to pay, so we have to charge for it. It'd be great if we could do everything for free, but we can't. So that's our main driver, is a passion to help people. And that comes from our policing background, I believe, because policing is a vocation. And that's a vocation, a drive to help people. And we've carried that on into Rybeck, and the whole ethos of Rybeck is about helping people. And we do that very well, I think. And I think any of our customers that you spoke to would say that they have a really good experience with us. And they enjoy it because they know they can pick the phone up and speak to us anytime, and we will give them an answer and help them if we can. And I think that's the difference with Rybeck. And we go from strength to strength, and it's actually, when I look back where we've come from in the last 3 years, it surprises me, and it makes me really proud actually to see what we've achieved. It doesn't feel like 3 years, if I'm honest.
Echoing what Alice has just said there, we set Rybeck up to help people. Obviously want to make money as well, but the main reason we set Rybeck up was to help people and also continue the work we did in the police into civil life, really. So any companies we can help, we're about support network. We offer the services that we offer, but we also offer support network. So we have customers that pick up the phone, send emails, have queries, and say, I've got a daft question to ask. There's never a daft question to ask. If you've got a concern, you want some advice about anything related to cybersecurity, if we don't know about the area, what you're looking at, we can always find somebody who does. So that is it. We just like to help and offer support to our network and also as clients as well. That's something we'll continue to do, no matter how large we grow as an organisation.
Nicely said, guys. And I think, look, from Warren R's perspective, myself perspective, we could testify that you're a smashing pair of blokes, and what you do is incredible work, and the long may you continue to develop the business and make the contributions that you've made. So it's been a genuine privilege having you on the podcast. Long time overdue. We're delighted that we've managed to get some time with you now at last, and we can't wait to see where the journey takes both of you and Rybeck respectively. I'm sure it'll be an incredible next few years as the markets continue to provide that demand for your services. So huge thank you for today. We'd obviously like to ask you, I guess, a couple of things at the end, really, which is where do you see the future for you guys? And outside of LinkedIn, is there anywhere that our listeners can maybe stay connected with you and maybe reach out to you?
Do you want me to answer this one to start anyway, Chris?
Yeah, I don't mind. It's all good.
So Rybeck, we want to grow Rybeck. We want to be able to grow the company so we can offer our services to more clients effectively. And we want to be involved in heavily in helping young people come into the industry. One of our passions is bringing young people into the industry. So we're in the process at the moment of trying to bring an apprentice on board to work alongside us. But that's where I see Rybeck going. I see Rybeck growing over the next few years into something that's hopefully quite large, touch wood, and bringing young people in and getting as many young people through the doors of Rybeck as possible and training them up, because young people need the opportunities, and we need to get more and more young people into cybercrime, cybersecurity, not into cybercrime, into cybersecurity.
Big thing we've seen from education from years ago, it's a massive cybersecurity skills gap. And also, I wouldn't always say skills gap, I think it's opportunities for people more than anything. You have lots of different university courses, people getting trained and all sorts of different qualifications, but it's just getting the opportunity for people. I think, unfortunately, with everything that's going on in the UK and, well, worldwide, isn't it? There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think having somewhere where people can come and work and flourish, I mean, that's key to us, I think, personally.
Well, I feel that it's been an interesting couple of years, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit more traction now, and as you say, opportunities afforded to some of the next generation of cyber talent.
So for keeping connected with us, we use LinkedIn quite heavily. We have our website at rybeck.co.uk. We also have a X channel. We have a Facebook channel. We have an Instagram channel, and we do have a TikTok and a YouTube page, but I'm not sure we update it that often. But we do have all the social media channels. But if anybody ever wants to contact us, by all means, drop us an email, contact@rybeck.co.uk. And we're always happy to have a chat with people. As you know, we love to talk to people. We love to socialise. We love to grab a coffee with people and have a chat with them. Because, again, talking amongst ourselves and talking about networking is really important, because that's how we increase knowledge.
So, guys, obviously, Alistair, Chris, we'd like to say a huge thank you to the community and all of our listeners. I'm sure they'll have found a great deal of value in today's session. If anyone wants to continue the discussion, as always, we invite you to join the Secure Cyber Connect platform, where we offer a range of collaborative solutions for tech and security professionals at no cost. Expansive community access, mutual mentoring, online networking, and exclusive interviews such as this, along with panel discussions and masterclasses. If you want to learn more, go to the Secure Cyber Connect community and any of our initiatives. Thank you very much, guys.
If you're struggling with cultural, technological, or talent acquisition challenges, reach out to the Secure Cyber Connect team, where we offer advice and guidance, and we're here to help.